I'd like to take this opportunity to draw your attention to two particularly recent books. They're both written by the same author, Dr. Jason Fung, MD, from Canada. The first one is the Obesity Code, and the second one is the Diabetes Code. And they follow back to back in explaining how controlling insulin levels is at the heart of controlling obesity and type 2 diabetes. He explains clearly and makes his case convincingly through the use of numerous clinical studies that the heart of the obesity problem and the heart of type 2 diabetes and elevated insulin is shared, and that is namely excessive insulin production. When insulin is produced to excess, its job is to convert blood sugar into a fat called triglycerides, which is then stored in your fat cells. In the case of the diabetic, excess insulin can be produced to such an extent that it begins to damage or desensitize insulin receptor sites. When that occurs, the blood sugar rises because insulin can no longer effectively and efficiently remove the sugar and store it as fat. Behind both of these problems lies the regulation or the need for the regulation of insulin levels. Dr. Fung has done a fantastic job not only of spelling this out, which is something that most of us in the alternative health and medicine fields have realized for decades, but he's able, because he's within the community, he's able to begin to make the mainstream medical community aware of the fact that they have been treating type 2 diabetes, overweight, and obesity issues completely the wrong way for many decades. Needless numbers of type 2 diabetics have suffered horrible complications from and terrible side effects and ultimate premature death from their disease because it was treated incorrectly. By addressing aggressively blood sugar through drugs, insulin injections, and so forth, we were ultimately just making the individual's problem worse and accelerating their disease process. By going in the opposite direction and addressing insulin levels instead of blood sugar, we not only lower insulin levels, but automatically lower blood sugar at the same time. In the case of obesity, if someone is more than 50, 60 pounds overweight, they are probably what we call insulin resistant. And the only way to control insulin resistance is through reducing drastically sometimes the ingestion of carbohydrate and sugary foods from the diet, and also adding fuller support of key nutrients such as chromium and vanadium, which can also help to regulate blood sugar and hence regulate insulin, because the dance between the two is constant. It's always going back and forth. But unfortunately, we were trying to solve one problem and totally ignoring the cause of that problem, which of course is a condition called hyperinsulinemia or excess insulin production, which results in insulin resistance, making the individual a victim to their own blood sugar levels. I'd like to congratulate Dr. Fung on the bravery that he had for standing up within his own medical community to make medical professions and those in the dietetics industry understand that it's time that we give up the old paradigm, which hasn't worked in the case of obesity or diabetes in the last 50 years. And it's time to look at a new concept, which is addressing insulin instead of blood sugar.